Once upon a time, a miller on his deathbed left his three sons nothing but his mill, a donkey, and a cat. The eldest son took the mill, the middle son took the donkey, but the youngest son was left with only the cat. The young man was very upset. "My brothers have something to live on, but what will I do with this cat? At most, I'll make a pair of gloves from his fur and then I'll starve." The cat heard his master's words and surprisingly replied, "Master, do not despair. If you give me a pair of boots and a bag that can be closed completely, you will see that I am more useful than you think." The youngest son was surprised by the cat's speech, but gave him what he asked for. The cat put on his boots, slung his bag over his shoulder, and went to a field where game animals were plentiful. He put some bran and wild carrots in his bag and lay down as if dead, waiting for prey to fall into his trap. Before long, a foolish rabbit entered the bag. The cat immediately closed the bag and caught the rabbit. The cat, with the rabbit in hand, went directly to the palace and presented himself to the king. "Your Majesty," said the cat, "this fresh rabbit was gathered from the lands of the Marquis of Carabas. My lord sends it to you with his compliments." The king was pleased and accepted the gift. For the next few weeks, the cat continued to hunt and regularly bring game to the king. Each time he said the gifts came from the Marquis of Carabas. One day, the cat heard that the king would be taking a ride by the river with his daughter. He immediately ran to his master and said, "Master, if you do as I say, you will be a rich man. Take off your clothes and go into the river for a bath." The young man did as the cat said. Meanwhile, as the king's carriage passed by the river, the cat began to shout loudly, "Help! The Marquis of Carabas is drowning." The king, hearing the name Marquis of Carabas, immediately stopped his carriage. The cat explained that his master's clothes had been stolen and he had been robbed. In truth, the cat had hidden the clothes under a large stone. The king ordered his servants to immediately bring the finest suit of clothes for the Marquis of Carabas. Dressed like a prince, the young man got into the carriage with the king's daughter. The princess was very impressed by the handsome marquis. The cat ran ahead of the carriage. He saw peasants working in a large meadow. He threatened them, saying, "If the king asks you to whom this land belongs, say, 'It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas,' or you will lose your lives." When the king's carriage arrived, the king asked curiously, "To whom does this beautiful meadow belong?" The peasants replied fearfully, "It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, your Majesty." The king was very impressed. The cat continued to move forward and reached a large castle. This castle belonged to a huge and cruel ogre. The cat entered the castle and approached the ogre defiantly. "I hear you can transform yourself into any animal you wish. Is this true?" The ogre proudly said, "Of course," and transformed himself into a gigantic lion. The cat was very scared but composed himself. "Wonderful, but can you transform into a small animal? Like a mouse?" To prove himself, the ogre immediately transformed into a tiny mouse. At that moment, the cat pounced on the mouse and swallowed it in one gulp. When the king's carriage arrived at the castle, the cat greeted them enthusiastically. "Welcome to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas, your Majesty." The king and the princess were astonished by the castle's size and splendor. They had never imagined the young marquis was so wealthy. Soon after, the wedding of the Marquis of Carabas and the princess took place. As for Puss in Boots, he never had to hunt mice again, and lived a life of great respect and prosperity until the end of his days.